Hello, and welcome to Lucidus Podcast, where I explore everything. Today we're going to explore a puzzle because I believe everything is connected to everything else. And I haven't done a 1,000-piece puzzle ever by myself. And I remember when I first kind of had this inkling, it was not long after I had moved into where I live now, my home. And something said, hey, you need to get a puzzle and do it because it's going to teach you. And I said, okay. So that was over a year ago that I got this puzzle. I don't actually want to think too hard about how long I've had it because it's been a long time. And I haven't done it very much. So I can't say that, I think I'm actually kind of quick at it, considering I never do it. But recently, I have had this big impulse. Okay, it's time to finish this puzzle. We're going to put effort toward it. We're going to do it. Blah blah blah. And it's been fascinating to suddenly put effort into something and find that it's not as easy as I thought it would be. I kept thinking, oh, it'll be fine. When I finally put my mind to it, it'll be fine. A little bit harder than I thought. So I want to talk about what I've done because part of what this journey is, a big part of my journey now in life, is creating a new life. I know I've talked a bit about that. What does it mean to live again in a whole new way, but, the freedom to live again without carrying a lot of the baggage that I've carried for many, many years. And I want to pause and talk about that because, look, I just found 2 pieces. I'll point out when I find things. And one of the things I've learned about the puzzle is I'm kind of stuck as far as putting things on to the main puzzle. I've looked a good bit and I'm not seeing it. And so what I've done is, you might be able to see here, there's 2s and 3s and 4s. This is kind of where I put them when I find something. As I've started collecting things, this is not new. This is not brain science, but it matters because my goal is to learn from the puzzle, not to do the puzzle. So what I've done is collect things that kind of have different colors or textures, something that looks like it might go together, and then I put them in a similar area, and then I'm able to put little pieces together and go from there. And then, like when I was working on it yesterday, I was able to pick up a piece, and I suddenly went, oh, I flipped it, and I don't remember where I put it, but it went somewhere. So, it's interesting. I was talking about baggage and leaving behind a lot of baggage. And somebody said something to me the other day. I can't even remember what it was. And I immediately felt like this, why would say that? Why would they say that? And like this defensiveness came up. And I was like, oh, there's something there for you. There's something there for you. Meaning because I was like, well, that's resolved. Like that's taken care of. Why would they even say that? But because of this, like, sort of like, I was like, oh, obviously there is still energetically something there for you. And the reason I find that so fascinating is since I've completed the rape trial, and I know it ended the way it ended, and I totally trust it, but I know it's done because there's just, I don't know how to explain it, but there's nothing unresolved. There's nothing unresolved. It still happened. I'm not saying that there aren't, it still happened, and I still have moments where I'm afraid someone's, following me, whatever. Like, it's not that, but specific to the rape, it's just all resolved. It's just all resolved. And I don't know that I've ever, this is one of the biggest traumas in my life that I have fully resolved. Let me say it that way. And so I have it sort of as a baseline to compare to where if something else comes up, I can go, oh, that doesn't feel like it's not fully resolved. So I have something that's a severe trauma that's been fully resolved. And so I know what that's like now. And it's a baseline for me and something to sort of a barometer to compare things to. Compare the weather patterns, let's say. I can compare the weather patterns of other areas of my life to what a calm, neutral weather pattern of the rape now is for me. So when someone said something recently and I was like, in my head, I was like, oh, I'm done with that. Why would they even bring it up? And I was like, well, that's not really sort of a neutral, calm weather pattern response that you just had. So maybe there's something there for you. So as I'm building a new life, what I found is I have tried to put these two damn pieces together 16,000 times. I'm going to pick them up and see if I can't really see what you can see. I think you can see. It's like they're so damn close in both pattern, color, positioning. I know I have tried to put these together like 6,000 times. I swear to God. And I leave them in the same place because they're obviously in the same, you know. But it's also frustrating to continue to look at them and always go, nope, 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 they don't, you already know, they don't fit. Which is one of the lessons I'm learning through the puzzle, is there are things in my life that I think should fit. And they just don't. They just don't. They're so close. Like they have the same color scheme. They're such similar patterns and they almost fit together and they just don't. They just don't. They just don't. No matter how many times I try. No matter how many times I try, they just don't. So that's also been something I've been thinking about as I've been creating a new life is what fits. Not what I wish fits, what I think fits, or what looks like it should fit, but what actually fits. And also this clumping together of things. That's been a big part of me considering how sometimes there are so many pieces of our lives. And when you're trying to put a new one together, it's overwhelming and you can't always see how they're going to work. And so clumping together like all my musical activities. And I think, okay, I want all of these sort of musical activities in my life, whether it's singing or guitar or dancing. For now, I'm just kind of like hodgepodging all the music together, and then I think about reading and writing, and kind of hodgepodging all the things that I want to do there, what goes there. Thinking about my health and fitness and longevity, my body and my mind and, taking care of and caring for the vessel that is the experiencer that I need to experience this life, putting all that there, eating, like, what does it mean to exercise and eat right and be healthy in my post-menopausal later years of life, right? It's not the same as how I used to exercise and eat. It's very different. Things have changed. My body's changed. And so how do I serve this new vessel? And then also relationships, I've kind of clumped all relationships into one and tried to look at them honestly as a that's really been a powerful part where I kind of clumped relationships all to one. Okay, here are all my relationships, whether it's friends or family or work or blah, blah, blah. And I've been noticing like overarching patterns. Some are great. And I'm like, yeah, this is okay. I'm putting together these relationships. They look great. And then there are overarching patterns in that field where I'm like, these are not serving me. They're not serving that. They're not what I want, blah, 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 blah. So it's also, by clumping them together, it's also given me kind of the time and space to consider, okay, well, what can I do? How can I work on this? What can I change? What can be done? To sort of put the puzzle pieces of relationship together in the way that I want. I do. I must say, it's one of the things I realized about my mom many years ago, where after I had this, it was after the divorce, the rape, a divorce where my 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 ex-husband was not kind at all during that time. So it was painful in so many levels, but that did not help. That additional cruelty did not help. And then the rape happened right after that, and then a relationship with a man that was sociopathic. So it was kind of just like a triple whammy, and I was just destroyed. And at that point, as I was trying to put myself back together, isn't it? I've done this more than once, and I learn every time. I don't ever want to do it again, but who's to say that I won't be given yet another chance? So, anyway, what I was getting at is I remember sitting there thinking, I was thinking about the way I was, and I didn't even recognize who I was. Like had been destroyed beyond my own recognition. And I remember just closing my eyes and thinking about who I remembered being. And I went way back to like a little girl, a young child. And I could remember like my time on, the beaches in Hawaii, or whether it was the farms in Wanship and in the garden, or walking the railroad tracks or the mountains or whatever, riding the horses, or, tending the goats, whatever it was. And there was just a carefree, playful, curious, it was just like this amazing being that was just effusive and natural to who I was. Now that being no longer existed, I thought it was dead and never going to see it again. But I knew if it had lived in me once, it could live in me again. And so I began that long journey back to sort of what I would call youthful, not naive, but youthful. That the youthful parts of me, I wanted to reclaim those. And as I was thinking about that, something in me thought, I'm so lucky and so glad I had that experience, I have the memory, I know I can be that, blah, 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 blah. And then I thought of my mom, who was, there was sexual abuse when she was quite young. And I thought, I don't know, because it happened when she was so young, I don't know that she could ever find her way back to anything in the way that I am, because it doesn't exist for her. And it just made me so sad for her. And she's not the only one. It honestly made me sad for all the people where, the trauma occurs so young that there's no sort of imprint of who they actually are before the imprint of life and everyone else's bullshit and trauma is laid upon them. Oh, look, I got another one. There's two more. So I feel lucky that whatever I've been through, I have enough. I've had enough youthful memories that I can use those to fall back on, to remember, to guide me sort of back. And I'll never be that again, and I'm not trying to be that. I'm trying to reclaim parts of myself into the mature, wise being that I am today. So I'm reclaiming parts of my youth without I don't think I'm being naive about it, in that I'm just suddenly going to return to that. I'm not expecting that or asking for that. This reclamation is definitely more of an integration, more of the puzzle, more of putting the puzzle of who I am today together with, parts of myself that I lost along the way. But I'm also uh, letting go, getting rid of things that weren't mine, never were mine, that I confused, with as myself or as parts of myself. And it's lovely to not be taking those any further. I've carried those long enough. So, okay, so the puzzle, putting pieces together, getting little bits together, and then combining them until they make larger ones. It's really fascinating to put together a new life. And it's interesting because it's something I asked for when I was going through the rape trial. I would often say, ask the universe, please give me a chance to live again. I feel like I died, the whole, 18 years ago when I got divorced, it was just nothing but death. And I feel like it's literally been almost 20 years of that. And I was hopeful that somehow the completion of the rape trial was going to be the completion of kind of a big, all of it. And to some extent it has been. And that's been a huge relief. Which is so interesting that it's like I had to work all those years and go through so much stuff. It was like the pile to be composted was so large that it had took me almost 2 decades to get all the way down to a big piece, a big chunk, was dealing with the rape. And then now I have space to consider, like, okay, live. What does it mean to live? What kind of life would you live? How do you build that? And there's an element of grief that I don't understand in it. It's I think there's part of it is grieving for, it was like these two pieces that don't fit. There's still grief for the parts of my life that I worked so hard at that didn't work. And it's like to go forward and truly live requires or asks of me, the fullness of grieving for all that didn't happen. Even though I may have worked really, really hard and hoped really, really badly that it would. So there's an interesting element of grief in building a new life, and grieving, truly grieving, acknowledging, accepting what is not here and what is not happening. And not that it's not that nothing's ever going to change, but some things are never going to be. That ship has sailed, so to speak. That time has passed. I don't know why I say this. I think it's obvious what I'm saying, but in case it isn't, it would be like, I do not want to have more kids, and I never did want to have more than the two I had. But if I wanted to have more children, right? Like, I'm postmenopausal. Children are not going to be happening. That ship has sailed. Like, so there are literally some things in life. While I do believe in infinite possibilities, I'm not sure I believe in immaculate conception. So call that what you will. But I do believe there is, for me, my experience in building a new life has been there are some ships that have sailed, and there is some grief that I didn't know was there, honestly. And so there have been moments where I've, instead of building in the way I thought I would, I've actually needed to pause and take time to grieve. More deeply accept. And I have to say, it's interesting. I feel very vulnerable sharing this because I never thought I would. I never thought I don't know. I don't know why I feel so vulnerable sharing this because it's not even like a big deal or a big tale. Maybe I feel a little silly or ashamed or just, I think I was, look, here we are. See those two pieces? Look, here's the 6,001th time I'm trying to put them together. Because there's all these, they're all right here and they so want to fit and they don't. And I know I've gathered all these before and done this, and they just, it's like there's these great similarities, but they don't fit. And I tried these. It's funny because I know I've tried these colors, this color scheme, and I think I finally kind of pushed them apart because I was tired of going, they don't fit. Stop trying to make them fit. Um, but what I was going to say is, as I've thought about men in relationships, I could think of many relationships I've had, and I'm just kind of like I just nod my head and smile and just say that was a learning experience that was never going to work. So glad it didn't work. You know, don't have any interest in going back there. It's just yeah. But there are, well, I would say there's one man in particular, and possibly two, where one in particular came into my life like at the worst time and showed me who and what and how a mature man is in relationship and with a mature, strong, powerful woman. He was very interested. I I really liked him, but it was like right after the everything, and I just couldn't. I couldn't. I was, even asked like, "Hey, is there something here?" And I was just like, "Yeah, you're a great friend." Okay, that was, God, that was 15 years ago. That's a long time ago. But I think back, when I think back on um, men and what kind of man I would want and blah, 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 it's him. And it's funny, I've reached out a couple of times in the last 5 or 6 years. He's now in a different relationship and is engaged, and they haven't gotten married, but look, I got two more. They've been engaged for like a few years, like 5 or 6 years. But anyway, whatever. So again, it's like that ship has sailed, and there is grief over that. I feel like I try to, I can put a positive spin on it. I'm not saying it's negative, but I have to say it's interesting to me. It's one of the few areas of my life where I truly feel regret. I think maybe that's why I'm ashamed, or embarrassed is probably a better word. I'm not really ashamed of it. I'm embarrassed. Nearly everywhere in my life I can see that, it was the way it was, it had to be, it is, just all of this, all of the does. But this one I can't, oh look, got another one. It it's so, the funny thing about a puzzle is it really is like a little bits of celebration. I don't think, look, I got another one. I'm starting to, these lost pieces, I'm starting to find that they go on this bigger one. But it is like little celebrations, just like the smallest ones. And they seem kind of silly, but they're inside of me. They're very real and they're very enjoyable and they're sweet. I got another one. It is part of, I think, the reclaiming of youth. It's you like, I got another one, and I got another one, and I got another one. So anyway, I'm not sure why I wanted to share that, but I guess I wanted to admit it. I wanted to say it out loud and say, there is a man that I think offered me what today I would love to find. Unfortunately, he's not available, but I'm just, I think I'm a little bit, it's hard for me to imagine that there's another one, because I've met a lot of men and I've only met one like him. And he is pretty unique. And I knew it even then. And I would even say at times, I'm like, oh, we could do so much together. There's so many possibilities here for us, and just the timing. I obviously had a lot of years that I needed to go figure out. And anyway, so the relationship thing. In the meantime, I've coagulated, my relationship puzzle pieces, and I'm just looking at them kind of as a whole more closely and trying to determine, okay, how can I, better my abilities in patience. Patience has been the big one. I was talking to a friend recently, and I was telling him, I'm like, I can just see that. And it was really funny. It was in a text, and I thought it was rather clever. I was saying, people can be they're just so illogical and irrational, and da 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 da. Which of course, and I was like, and I'm just having to learn to be patient with people because they're just people, and of course, then I end it with, reminds me of me. I certainly fit into that definition. So I'm just really extending a lot more grace to human beings, a lot more patience, a lot more just watching and listening, especially when someone's kind of having. It's funny because people have a lot of moments, and they're not even necessarily big, but if you watch, people have moments all the time over spilled milk. Like literally, like hardly anything happened, and suddenly a moment is happening for someone, and it's pretty fascinating, honestly, just to watch and be like, oh wow, spilled milk. They're having a moment, and I'm just gonna sit here and watch. And because I'm doing it because it's something I want to do. I want to be able to just be with someone, and when they have when the milk is spilled and they have their moment, it's that I can just be like, okay, I'm here for it. You'll finish up. Because honestly, it's something that I said to someone else recently, where I was like, I kind of had a moment, and one person handled it well, and someone else didn't. And I was just like, look, and it wasn't even anyway, it wasn't even like a super big moment that I was having. And I was like, if the person, that's not a good fit. Yeah, if I'm not able to kind of be with someone while they have a moment, because it's too triggering for me, it's too hard for me, it's too whatever, that's not a good fit. And I no longer feel like I need to work on every relationship in my life. There's too many. I'm a little more discerning. So that is not a relationship that I want to work on. And the same is true in reverse, meaning this other person was like, I don't want to deal with you. And I'm like, that's good to know for both of us. And it's absolutely not necessary that we do. We don't know each other that well, and this is a good place to let it go. So there are enough people in this world, and maybe if we were living in small communities, but since we're not, and there's just so many damn people and so much to do. I kind of am just trying to work on the ones where people want to be there, can be there, are there, and move forward and learn with those. So anyway, what else has this puzzle taught me? Patience. I mean, it's a big one. And that it's not as easy as you think. Like I said, I thought that this would be, I hadn't really applied myself, and so I kept thinking, oh, as soon as I'm ready, like I'll just apply myself and then I'll do it and it'll be fine. And now that I'm applying myself, I'm like, shit, this is not that easy. I don't know why. I don't know why I got in my head that it was going to be easy. But it's not. A lot harder than I thought. Which isn't that kind of, it's not true for all things, but there's definitely some truth. Actually, I think the real truth is you never know. There are times I walk in here and without even thinking of anything, I'll just pick up a piece, plonk. And it's, how the hell did I do that? Like, just happens. I'll walk in and in the space of 3 minutes, I'll set like 3 pieces. Not even that. And I'll be like, oh, okay, I'll walk out. And then other times I'll come in here and just fret over colors and get nothing. Get nowhere. So there's a few pieces I've picked up numerous times because they're so fascinating to me. I can't wait to see where they go. This is one of them. I think you can see. There's another one that's similar to that where the pattern is just, I just think, where that could be anywhere. And I just think, oh, I wonder where that one's gonna. And it's something about it is striking to my eye, and so I've picked it up many times. So we'll see. I actually did. This is the second podcast I did with this puzzle in the last week, but the other one I'm not going to show. At least not yet. Maybe I'll show it at a later date. But there is someone that is trying to do some serious public shaming. And it honestly surprised me and shocked me. I did not see this about that person. And I don't know how many of you know Monica Lewinsky. You can look it up if you don't know, but I just happened upon her podcast. I was listening this morning as I was getting ready, and she was talking. I didn't know she had, I've never seen it. Anyway, she was talking to someone about public shaming. And I hadn't thought, I've been thinking about what this person is doing, and I hadn't really known. I was just like, wow, I don't really know what they're doing, but I don't like it, and I don't really know what to do. I still don't know what to do, but, and then as they were talking about it, I was like, oh my gosh, this person is public shaming. And I couldn't believe it. Like, I did not, like, it's just amazing. Anyway, so I don't know what I'm doing with that, but what I am going to say is that's some super ugly, nasty energy. And it's not inside me. It's inside the other person. And I mean, blessings to them, because if that's what they've resorted to, they've got some shit to work on and deal with. And whatever they're trying to do with the public shaming isn't going to work. So, because in order for it to work, the person you go after needs to believe in it and be ashamed enough of themselves that they'll go along. And the first time they kind of did something like this, I did. And not only will I not go alone anymore, but I will rise up and fight for myself. And I don't even think I'll have to. I have a strong enough community and people who see me and believe in me and know me for who I am and do not public shame me when they have problems. So there's two more. There's two more. You know, it's interesting, this public shaming thing. It is so old. So old. I mean, centuries? Millennia? More? I mean, I think it's something that humans have been doing to keep other humans in check for a really, really long time. And people have been going to watch them. I can't, I mean, it's crazy to me that I don't think any of us here are without an ancestor. There's two more. Are without an ancestor that somewhere in our ancestry went and watched a beheading, a hanging, a stoning, or whatever. I don't know that any of us go back a few thousand years, probably all of us have an ancestor that were beheaded or stoned or hung or, who knows. Or shame, just the scarlet letter. I mean, just the public shaming. It's not new. It's one of the oldest and I think insidious and pain-filled practices, reactions to life. I just had to stop because that is not nothing. I mean, how many of our ancestors took part in some way or another in public shaming? In somebody that wouldn't behave in the way that they were told to, or that the other person wanted them to, or God knows. I mean, so many reasons. We can start with just the public shame of behavior, but public shaming because of race, gender, religion, all of it. I mean, and it's just so sad that not just the people it happened to, but people that did it, that was the best they could do. It just feels pitiful to me. It feels so pitiful to me. There's that lovely piece. I just can't wait to find out where it goes. I've tried a few times and I don't see it yet. But anyway, so there it is. I've got a few more public shaming. I mean, if you're doing it, stop. Because you're in the wrong. There are far better, it's not the way. We were given so many tools of communication. I don't believe we need to resort to that ever. And I may be wrong, but I certainly think it's the last resort. And if you're going to do something like that, man, it needs to have been a heinous crime against, humanity, not against your own little petty ego, your own little whatever. It's just so, it's ridiculous. So anyway, all right, so we'll come back to this. I'm sure the puzzle, and I'm sure the public shaming. It's so funny. I was not going. I was just going to do the puzzle. So this public shaming thing came out of nowhere and surprised me, honestly. Yeah, I'm super curious, and it was only because I just barely listened to it, and that piece, piece fell into place that I hadn't really understood about this situation, about this person. And it's funny because people like that are very powerful. They can get a lot of people on their side. They can do a lot of damage. They can, I don't take it lightly, but I also don't take it seriously. Any damage they attempt to inflict, I think, will be very quickly reflected back. It's just not going to go anywhere this time. So, and it's just a nuisance. Something I don't want in my life, and hopefully I don't have to do much about it. But if it arrives, I guess I'll learn. I'm so grateful for the courageous people in life who have behaved well. There are plenty of people in life who have not behaved well, and they may even been courageous. But I'm super helpful for all the people in life who behaved well, who behaved better than they needed to. Like they just behaved well. They chose to behave better, and because they are inspiring to me. They're a beacon, they're a pathway, they're a reminder, all those things. I'm so grateful. And I hope that's what we can be for each other. Might not be the easy path. But I think it's the peaceful path. Peaceful and inner peace, I should say. Peace with ourselves. And I have to say, there have been plenty of times where I wanted to publicly shame, whether it was the rapist, whether, the times definitely with my ex-husband where I wanted to air things and didn't. Different people, situations. There have been times where I very much wished that I could do such a thing. So I wouldn't say I'm above it. I guess I'm grateful that the opportunity didn't really present itself, or if it did, I didn't take it. I don't know that I really noticed. I'm sure there were. I guess the opportunities were there. I could have said anything at any time, but I didn't. And I'm glad I didn't. Glad I waited. Because I was given a chance to do that type of thing in different ways that were more constructive, healthy, more aligned with the severity of the offense, so to speak. You know, I got a chance to sit on the witness stand in front of the rapist and tell my story, and he listened. He had to listen. He didn't choose to, but he had to sit there and listen. And I got to say what happened in a court of law. And it seems fair to me. There certainly have been times where, you know, what I wanted to air doesn't belong in that space at all. You know, it's a much more personal, private, I could use the word petty. I mean, it doesn't feel petty, but it is a more petty, you know, sort of incident where it would not be appropriate to do it in a court of law nor in a public sphere. I think it's easy. To take it into the public sphere. It's easy to rally the troops around someone else. Wage war, prove. And then, after you've done all that, which is what happened 3 years ago with this person. And there's not just one, there's probably 2 or 3, but the interesting thing is they're still at war. And I've moved on. I'm living a life that I treasure very much. I care for very much. I'm very thoughtful about every day. This is another one that I pick up a lot that I'm really curious about. I'm pretty sure it goes up here somewhere, but I just have not been able to figure it out. Oh my God. That's funny. There it goes. Which is funny because I've been looking for that piece for a long time. Oh, that's so fun. It's so hard to, maybe it's the thing about life, thing about puzzles, so hard to see sometimes that something goes where it goes, and then it just goes there, and you're like, why didn't I see that? Well, look at that. Oh, that doesn't fit there. Oh my God, that's so funny. I hope you can see that. How well can you see that? I don't know if you can see it very well, but look carefully. It like practically fits. Practically, I mean, it like fits. It's a little bit janky. And it almost looks like it fits, but it doesn't. It doesn't. Isn't that crazy? Again, it's that thing where this just fit, and this should fit, and it's so freaking close. It doesn't fit. Doesn't fit. That is too bizarre. No, that's so close. So close. That is so close to fitting. It's so close, I have to look at it twice and make sure I'm not wrong. That's too funny. Too funny. And here I thought I suddenly found 2 at once. Nope. Anyway. I do think I have some ancestors who burned at the stake, whipped, hung, beheaded, branded. Who knows? Because because there's a lot more energy there than the experiences of my lifetime would warrant. So, makes me sad. And I'm sorry. Sorry it happened to anyone. And I'm sorry that people are still out there doing such things. You don't. Yeah. Anyway. All right. So, we'll return. We'll see if I make any headway. And until then, try not to do any public shaming. And if you're on the receiving end, good luck. And try not to take it personally. I don't really have advice yet because I just don't know that I understand the situation well. It just makes me sad. Alrighty, take care.